Happy Wednesday, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Hi, and thank you for spending your valuable time and Wednesday with me. If you're new here, welcome. We're a really fun group. We get together every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to learn and collaborate and network with smart, interesting, talented humans. And if you're here, that means you're one of those people. So thank you for bringing all of your smarts and your goodness and your talent here with us today. If you haven't already, which extra credit, because I know a lot of you already have, but if you haven't already, add your name and where you're coming from in the chat. For the record, this is how I'm pointing in the chat because this is where the chat is for me. Is this where it is, Shelby? Oh my God, you guys, it's the same for both of us. Twins. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat. Welcome and join us this crazy little party we have going today. And I will say, throwing it out there, a little extra on this Wednesday, if you need something, if you're looking for a recommendation on something, also throw it in. I'll go first. Don't worry, I'll go first. I'm looking at switching email providers. If you have an email provider that you love, like it's the best thing that ever happened to me, let me know. Currently, I'm on Flowdesk. It's lacking the things I want to do. We're looking at ConvertKit. We're looking at ActiveCampaign. We're looking at MailChimp. If there is something that you use or that your company uses that you're like, this is awesome, Kim, have you looked into it? I can attest it's amazing. Let me know. Drop it on in there. That's me, but now you go. Is there something you're wondering about? Is there something you're considering? If so, this is the place to do it because we're in a room of really smart, amazing humans. So this is where you're going to want to go to for resources. And speaking of resources, boy, oh boy, are we in for it today because we are going to get a lot of resources from a friend, a new friend. I just moved to Austin and we actually met in real life, IRL, as the kids say, last week. But he is an amazing CEO and founder of an awesome company called Scaled. We'll drop his link in the chat, Jake Dunlap. If you haven't already Google stalked him, you should, because he's going to be joining us in a little bit. And I'm telling you, you're going to want to get, here's the questions you're going to want to get ready. Because by the way, if you're new here, this is interactive. This is not a monkey in a zoo. You're not watching me. We are all sitting together at this virtual table. So when Jake joins us, it's like we're at a restaurant. You know, you can't have two people talking at the restaurant the whole time. You got to talk too. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We're going to be working them in real time. This isn't a podcast. We're here together. We're having a party. So I'm going to need you to add to the conversation. Don't be that weirdo sitting in the corner with nothing to say. You know what I mean? So add to the conversation. Here's what you're going to want to ask Jake about, or what I'm going to ask Jake about, but then we can like build off each other. Sales. It's literally all his company does all day, every day. And sales to me is one of the hardest things to understand and get right in mastered business. Just ridiculously tough. Shout out to all the salespeople out there. You have a hard job. I feel you. So I'm going to be asking him about sales. Entrepreneurship. He was at Glassdoor for 10 years. If anyone has not heard of that website, it's a wildly popular website here in the US. I think it's also worldwide, called Glassdoor. Super interesting. He was there for 10 years, a decade, grew it to like a bajillion-dollar business, and then left and started his own thing. So I'm super curious, like, cush, awesome corporate job, like, why go into entrepreneurship? So that's another thing I'm going to be asking him about. But that's why I included his link over here. Do a little Google stalking. Do a little looky-loo. If you have any questions for him, then you can ask them. Thank you so much, Ryan and everybody, for putting Jen, MailChimp, for adding these awesome points because I just don't know what to use. But yeah, if anybody else has recommendations, that's literally what I'm looking into today. I wish I could show you my calendar. If there was like a screen share, maybe there is a screen share function on here. If there is, I don't know how to use it. But if I could show you my calendar, it would say after this, I'm doing two things after this. One, I'm going to be joining a conference right after this called the Unmute Conference, which Jake and his company are hosting. So that's sort of fun. And then I'm going to be looking into the email campaign. So any other suggestions on that? And you can always DM me after this if you think of something and brilliance hits you later. But anyways, that's enough of me asking for help. You asked for help in the chat. And then I want you to help me in welcoming Jake to our little coffee party. Hi, Jake. How are you?
There you go. All right, we got to get that going up. Can you hear me? How's the volume?
I can hear you, but you sound very far away and very low.
Well, that's my move. That's actually intended. You know, it's like, then you're like, oh, wait, is it something profound? Is it not profound?
It's like the fade in on a movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's my move. It's like a known thing. Cheers. Cheers. Coffee with Kim.
What is that?
It's actually like this might, you might boot me immediately. It's actually black tea.
I always do tea. That's the big joke.
Okay, good. All right. Black tea. That's right here. And I'm getting my setup over here. I actually have like my own like home office, like tea kettle up here, like electric tea kettle and my assortment of teas. Like it's turning into like a little office. Like people can come over. It's like, I'm going to have a co-working space in my house here, like in no time.
You're going to have a bunker room. You're going to get some snacks. You're never going to leave. There's no need.
Oh God, let's hope not.
Let's hope not. I mean, but really. Okay, so I told everybody a little bit about you. And I included your link so they can Google stalk you. But for anybody who's incredibly lazy and didn't click the link and didn't Google stalk you, what is like your 30-second, who the hell is Jake opener?
So who is Jake? It's a very complex question. Hopefully the audio is getting louder as we go through this now. So who is Jake? So I am now currently, I'm the leader of a sales consulting firm, Scaled Consulting. We have about 30 folks globally helping to transform sales organizations, optimize processes, and help with the tactical execution. But who is Jake? I am a person who enjoys to have intelligent, deep conversations with people about sales and other related topics that I actually know things about. I like to ski. I don't know. It's a very meta question when I think about, like who am I, right? And as somebody who owns a company, I know you know this, right? Like you tend to identify with that's me. But no, I also do a lot of talking about sales and where sales and business is headed, and I really enjoy that as well too. From all the vantage point that I have of talking to hundreds and hundreds of CEOs and VPs of sales every year, helping to create the future and set what the future of B2B sales and customer interaction is going to look like. So it wasn't 45 seconds.
Well, I'm really excited to dig into sales because I have to say, I was saying earlier before you joined, like sales to me is one of the hardest sort of nuts to crack. It's constantly changing. It's constantly morphing. Like you as a human trying to work in sales, it's like a very dynamic position. It reminds me of almost of like a CTO where like technology is always changing really quickly. So why sales? Like that just seems like the hardest thing to go into. I would personally run from that like a million miles an hour. And then also like, what is it that you love about it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that, right? It's like I fell into sales or whatever. Usually the people that do that weren't that good at it, because like you shouldn't fall into a career. You should like choose it. You could test, and then like choose it. So in college I worked full time, and so I got a job doing telemarketing. And what I realized I was able to do was get uncomfortable and deal with rejection better than most people who had been doing the job for years and years and years. And I think somebody had asked me a similar type of question recently, and I don't know what it comes from, but I think it's like I was like the number 2 class clown in my high school of like 2,000 people. And they didn't call it a class clown. It was like, that really means I was like a classroom disruptor. So like, I've never had a problem like challenging authority or, like not like viewing myself as a peer. And I think what happens in sales why people struggle, or even like the mental concept, is like, they always feel like they're intruding on somebody. I've just never had that feeling. I feel like I'm helping. Like, why are you selling something if you don't think it actually helps somebody? And so for me, I think whether it was delusion or, I don't know, talking to myself, I feel like I was able to convince myself, like, look, I'm here to help this other person. So why am I nervous? Why am I not okay getting a little uncomfortable and being like, well, look, Kim, have you thought about it this way? Because I really, truly believe that what I'm going to sell them is going to make an impact. And so that, to me, I think that's a big part of, and then why I stayed in sales, right? So I was able to kind of have some like natural abilities there, is I started reading. My very first job, there's a gentleman who's older than me. He had transitioned careers from banking sales to sports. And, he started to give me these sales books and these marketing books. And I'm like, wow, there's so much sociology, psychology, process, to sales that I just didn't realize. And so it checked a lot of boxes for me, both from I had like a natural aptitude for it, not like your mom thinks you should go into sales, but like actually like doing it. Right. And then it checked a lot of like, I'm a naturally curious, like quasi, I consider myself like a quantitative, like logical thinker, and actually sales to me like fit all those boxes. And so, I realized really early on, like, this is my jam. Like, I enjoy it. It's fun.
Okay. So 2 questions. One, what are some of those books that you're referencing?
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to add them to my reading list.
Yeah.
Number 2, you hit the nail on the head. At least I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if anybody else wants to speak, but like speaking for myself, that is exactly what I feel like. Like, I feel like I'm intruding or like I'm bothering people. So what is like a 1 or maybe 2 quick tips or something that you tell maybe new people that are working at Scaled or whatever to kind of like slap that out of them a little bit?
Yeah. And I'll tell I got some good stories about this too. So books, I'll give you some of like the old school ones. There's a book by this guy, Brian Tracy. I think it's called Art of the Close. I think that's what it's called. Or it's Art of the Sale. So Brian Tracy, Art of the Sale. There's another one by a gentleman called Zig Ziglar who passed away, and it's Secrets of the Close, I think is the name of the book. You can fact check this before, and you and Shelby can make it happen. But I look, what those books actually taught me is that, again, good sales is storytelling. It's being able to put somebody in a scenario and getting them to visually paint what this new reality looks like. And I think both of those 2 books were really influential in me kind of understanding, how to paint that picture. That it's not about selling a house. It's about the view from the top balcony where you and your wife can sit and enjoy a glass of wine. Right. And so those books go into that. So those are some oldies but goodies, for sure. And then what do I tell people? I definitely have had a lot of the opposite too, where people are like come into a role like, sales, I'm going to crush this. There's this guy, I'll tell this story. I won't use his name. I had a top performer on my team. He refers his best friend. This guy, first interview, look, you're going to call me the money machine because I'm going to make it rain up in here. You're like, okay, cool. All right. You're the money machine. All right. Goes into training. He's a little hesitant. First day on the phone, I look at the dial report. The dude's made like 2 phone calls. I'm like, hey, what's going on, dude? I don't know if I can do this. Dude quit by 3 p.m. And so a lot of people, but his sale that he was used to is people were coming in the door, not going out. And that's where that intrusion, so even for someone who's experienced in sales, when it flipped from going out, he felt, kind of this whole new world, even though it wasn't. So advice that I'd give is this, at least for me, knowledge is power. There's actually a post today that someone had tagged me in, and I commented, like, where does your confidence come from? For me, it's from knowledge. And that's what helps me with my confidence. Like, I'm more confident if like I know the industry, I know the space. And so I feel like if you take the time to get to know your industry, right, that you're going to sell into, or who you're in, your buyers, like, what does it actually mean to be a VP of operations at an industrial manufacturing company? But guess what? You can Google it and like figure it out, right? Like, so, and I think if you can just realize, look, your job is to add value to the situation, not to distract, not to, annoy. And for me, because I would quickly get myself up to speed on what does this person do? What is this industry? I'd prep. Like, so before calls, I would spend 30, 45 minutes prepping for the person. What are they probably going to be like based on their title and their role? And then once you do that thousands and thousands of times, it's like a callus in doing pull-ups. Nobody wants to do pull-ups, but once you do pull-ups over a while, the anxiety and the stress gets less and less. And if you do it every single day, you have calluses and you can do pull-ups.
Well, and the prep is also, where the prep is hard. I'm curious for your thoughts on this. I find that, and again, I'm curious what everybody else thinks. I don't want to monopolize the Jake time, but sales to me one-on-one are much easier than like sales to the masses. Like if you have a SaaS product or a software product, or you're selling coffee mugs or whatever, to me, it's easy to kind of go Nancy Drew and like study someone before I talk to them. But if you're trying to sell something to like 10,000 people, that's very different.
Yeah, what you're doing in that case is you're creating fictionalized, what we would call buyer personas, which is, and you put a picture to them. If they're typically female, they typically are single, or they're typically like. What you do is you build personas, and then you have another persona that might be male. So what you do is you start to build these constructs, which are, based on typical things that the typical characteristics of these individuals. And that's where a lot of people get in trouble when it comes to more marketing to the masses is they make things so vanilla, right? As opposed in today's marketing world, because of targeting abilities, you can be doing ads to all of these micro niches as you do this. So I feel like it's just understand who these segments are. And the other advice I'd give is, especially if you're early on, just focus on the top two. That's it. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. What too many people, and I see this all the time. Well, these people have bought our chocolate too. Like, those are called outliers. But 80% of your people are in the hyperbolic curve. Like, this is your audience. As you get bigger, then you worry about the tails. But I think where a lot of people get it twisted is they don't nail that persona. They don't go do those customer interviews. Go do customer interviews. Someone spends $15 with you, or someone spends $5. Go talk to them, and then you just document. And then that way, look, when you're developing product, plaster that in front of the engineers. When you're developing these things, like, everybody in your company needs to know this. We are building this. We are producing chocolate for Susan, for Ryan, not for like these other groups. And so I think, whether it's more to the masses or it's more B2B, it's all about staying focused and because then you can be more specific, and it's not quite one-to-one, but it might feel more one-to-one because it's not vanilla.
Well, and I feel like you talked about targeting also. I had said to everybody, but you guys have a conference going on right now. It's called Unmute. I'm going to speak at it after this. I encourage everybody to check it out. Shelby can drop a link in the comments as well. But I'm curious, when you talk about targeting with your clients and with people that you're working with you've obviously leveraged LinkedIn very effectively to target. And I'm curious, did you always approach LinkedIn as a selling tool, or were you originally just on it because you're like, yay, it's like Facebook?
It's kind of, it's like almost like the opposite. It was like, I used to only leverage LinkedIn where I was like, I'm going to connect and I'm going to have a call to action. I'm going to put out a link to get a click to my blog and a link to get a download for an ebook for Scaled, or, oh, hey, I thought you might find this interesting, like billboard with a link. And so my journey was May of 2018. We put together this ebook on GDPR. For those of you who don't know, it's this big legislation that happened in the UK and the EU about data privacy. And we distilled this whole law into like this 10-page document for sales and marketing leaders. It's still on the site. It's a beautiful piece. If you're in marketing or sales, go check it out. Just type in GDPR into the search. And then we put it out in the ether, right? We put it out on LinkedIn and others. And I'm like, and it did okay, right? It was like, okay, but we put a lot of work into this. And we're doing blog posts every week. You're looking at the viewership. You're like, this is not how people want to consume content today. People want to consume content in short, bite-sized information. I was just talking to the last group about this. It's like, how many of you have at least 5 blog posts in some random tab or folder that you haven't read? What about an ebook? How many of you have an ebook in a random? Nobody's doing that anymore, my friends. And so to me, it was like, I just had like this realization, hey, if this strategy isn't working, maybe I should just start to talk. And the other thing was I was probably hiding behind Scaled too, because I didn't want to be seen as like that guy who's out there promoting and self-promoting and being like, oh, look at me. Oh, shit. Oh, look what I'm up to. Like, I was actually very unconsciously self-confident about it, right? Or not confident about it. And I realized, I'm like, look, if it's okay that people know you and scale, you don't have to say scaled in every sentence, okay? Like, you don't have to push all the shine to scale. And I just didn't, those kind of two things like clicked at the exact same time. I realized the type of content and that the content needed to come from me, and I didn't have to talk about scaled. Guess what? People would figure it out. They would look, be like, oh, Jake's talking about sales. And you know, we've talked about this, like when we close yearly millions of organic dollars from posts on LinkedIn, just from posts on LinkedIn where people come inbound. The first time that really happened, I remember it was like 9 or 10 months into us doing this consistently. A woman called us, she's a successful CEO, company was scaling. I'm not quite sure what your company does, but like, we need help scaling sales, right? And we've closed many, many, many 6-figure deals with that exact type of, you know, kind of mindset. And so that's where, for a lot of entrepreneurs, and we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, et cetera, like, you are building your digital reputation. You're not trying to be an influencer. And that is like the easiest way, I think, for a lot of people who are worried about the ego component of this to think about it. I wasn't in this to be LinkedIn famous. I was trying to build a reputation. So when people thought about sales and modern sales, they'd think me and they'd think my company. And so I think that was my journey. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from getting more active, is that they don't want that judgment, because the judgment does come. I mean, no doubt people talk shit about you behind your back 100%. So, but that's okay. Like, I'm not doing it for them. They don't pay my bills. Like,
no.
These people pay my bills.
No, they don't pay. I wish they did, but they but they don't. You brought up such a good point, and I just want to, I know I raised my hand, but please drop a yes in the chat if you have unread ebooks, blog posts, or, you know, maybe a newsletter that you're like, oh, I'll read that later, and you have it either in a saved folder or it's up on a tab. Please drop yes in the chat, because I want to know that I'm not alone. And I'm actually looking down, because I have 2 that are minimized on my computer, like right this second. So
I love it.
You hit me hard in the heart there. That is so true. And when you talk about like organic, I mean, millions of dollars in organic, like my mind goes into a pretzel. Like how, what, why, like break that down a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm joining. I'm going to join the chat too here. I'm hopping in right now. So you know what I love about the new LinkedIn Live? I love that it's in your banner. How awesome, how like great is that it's in your banner now? I love it. So it's so easy, because now again, like, people can actually come in and they can actually like see what's like, I can just build a link and it's like my profile. So I love it. Okay, so break down the organic traffic and how it works. So LinkedIn is one of the best ways for, I would argue right now that the cheapest traffic online is Clubhouse and LinkedIn. It's the easiest ways, because they are not killing it with ad dollars, for you to grow your digital influence without having to pay for it. So last year, just to put it in perspective, I generated 11 million views with organic content. If you put that into construct for LinkedIn, that would have cost me nearly like $350,000 in advertising. And let me tell you what I do. Most of my posts, people are like, "Oh, Jake, you do a lot of videos." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I do, but like," sorry, I'm popping in the chat. So I do, but I put a lot of text posts. I just say like, hey, like my post yesterday, I'm like, oh, like what part of the sales process? I literally like go through it that morning. Like, I'm not one of those people, like on a Sunday, I schedule all my posts, and you know, I wish I was that person. Like, that sounds like a lot easier than like waking up and being like, blah. And then like, sometimes it's a home run, sometimes it's not a home run, you know? So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I'm pretty, And again, it didn't happen overnight, right? I'm like 3 years into this now. I put in the work and nothing happened for the first 6 months. But again, I intuitively knew, Kim, that the other way wasn't working. Right? The views and the interactions just showed apparently people don't like reshared links. Sorry, they don't.
Sorry.
They don't.
Okay, so if someone's like, okay, I got it. Like Jake has found success. I want 11 million views for myself. What is a very 101? Because when you say like I post every day, I know that there's people here that are already like arms folded, unsubscribed. I'm never gonna post every day. It's like that you've lost that.
Right.
So what is the gateway drug for someone who's like, I'm not gonna post every day?
Okay. I'll try to make it simple. Well, one, I'd ask why. Look, keep in mind, I'm a CEO of a company. Okay. Technically I have 30 direct reports, but I'm not just like, I'm running a business. Like I'm not running a click funnel. Okay. Like I'm not like selling courses. Okay. And not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way, right? If that's your jam,
I always think of that Seinfeld episode. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that. Of course, no, I'm not shouting anyone out here, but it's really not that complicated. And what I mean by that is like, look, there's two really easy places to pull inspiration here. One is you probably might already have some content, or you might find a piece of content on Harvard Business Review or something that's interesting. And instead of just sharing the link, just share your thoughts on it. Like that's like step one, is like, instead of just sharing someone else's stuff, instead just put your twist on it. And I think that's something that's really easy for some people to do. And it's okay. It doesn't even have to be that profound. The second thing, and then I'm going to talk about like mindset. The second thing is interview yourself about a trend in your industry. Just turn on a mic or camera that like, nobody would see, or have a friend do it, and just say like, hey, what do you think? What's most exciting about what you do right now? Well, this and this and this. Amazing. You don't have to post a video. I know that's like 201 or 301. Just take that content, take that content. And so I think those are the two things, like that's it. You probably already have content laying around that you could just, whether it's third-party content or content your company's created that you could repurpose with your own insights. Or two, just interview yourself or have someone interview you and rip it into some smaller post ideas, right? And the last thing I'll talk about is mindset. So when you're at that 101, nobody's listening anyway. Your posts are already getting no interaction. So guess what? Who cares? Who cares? Nobody's listening. Like that was my mindset. I'm like, my bar is really low. So like it can only go so much lower for me to try this other thing. So I just feel like just have the mindset, and I still have it to this day. I don't get too high on my own supply if something does really well, right? And if a post doesn't do well, whatever. Like it's data points. I look at the post and I say, well, why didn't that one do well? The opening sucked. That's like, I should have taken more time to do that one. You know what I'm saying? So I really look at every post as just a data point, and not it's a reflection of Jake Dunlap, right? Like I'm not, if something doesn't get as much, interaction, I'm not like, oh my God, I suck. You suck, Jake. Nobody likes you, right? Like I treat it really as data points. Michael Arlen, I saw his comment in here. God, that sounds so like I sleep better at night if I post something right before bed and in the morning you wake up. Like I can just imagine you pull it up and you're like, 4 likes. Oh man, like just and you're like it's like oh my gosh, like this thing. It's why I stop. I don't open email in the morning. I don't open email time at least a good hour or two into my work week, or my work day. At least an hour or two into my work day. Let me ask you this: how many times do you open your email and you're like, hooray? Like, oh wow, no fires, no issues, no anything, never, right? Like never.
Maybe like once,
exactly. And that's why you keep doing it. You keep doing it because of that one time that happened. Yeah. And I just stopped opening email early in the morning. I found like, why am I in the shower just pissed off right now? Like, why am I angry in the shower right now? And
but I'm like, do you feel like you had to get to that point in your own, like, I felt like I heard that advice when I was like in my 20s. And then I just, I dumbly was like, oh, well, that is advice for other people.
Right.
And now in my 30s, I'm like, oh, like that's why they were saying that. Like, do you find that some of these, like, you couldn't have implemented in your younger corporate career because you just weren't, like, you had to get up and check emails, or you had to do those things?
That is actually a beautiful call out. There's so many things, and I've actually posted about this concept that, people give advice. They're like influencers. Well, don't do this and this. It's like work-life balance. Did you have work-life balance to get to where you're at? No, you did not. That's why I almost never talk about work-life balance, because work-life balance to me is a personal decision and very dependent on where you're at in your career and what you want from your life. If you want to just chill on a beach and do whatever, more to you, more power. You want to be all time? You want to be great? You got to put in the work. There's no shortcuts. Work, hard work, 24/7, 60, 80-hour weeks, right? The two are not, you then reflect back and give the advice. But no, the no email one, I feel like you could implement. I could have implemented that before, for sure. I think too many people create false constructs. I did this with one of my number two. He's been with me for like 6 years now, and he couldn't say. He just kept overbooked. Like, calendar was just a nightmare. I said, here's what you're going to do. This next week, you cannot say yes to a meeting. You cannot take another meeting this week. You have to say no to every single meeting, or no, not now. I can do it then. He did it. He's like, oh my God. Like, wait, none of this stuff was actually urgent. Like, you have to realize that most of the stuff you're dealing with, if it waits 24 hours, it won't fall apart. And if you work for someone who's a bleep and they do that, go work for somebody else, but they're just repeating what they learned. It's not their fault, but like, yeah.
The power of no is huge. And I've talked about this before. Like, I am an actively recovering people pleaser. So no is tough. I can say yes very easily. Yeah, oh my God, totally, I'll help. Oh, no problem. But like, no is like, I feel like I'm going into like war, where I'm like, I'm gonna write this email and I'm gonna say no, and like, I'm gonna do this. It's tough.
Yeah. I just feel like you have to just realize, and again, I say yes a lot. Like, that's the thing. Like, I take a lot. That's actually what I put up this weekend was I take a lot of random meetings that I have no clue where they're going to lead to. No clue at all, but I also, every weekend, I look at meetings that maybe I booked a few weeks ago that, like, maybe I was going to do a demo of a new software, or someone wanted to tell me about some business idea or whatever. And I'll be like, well, that was important 3 weeks ago, but I'm going to move it actually 2 or 3 weeks. I really just like straight cancel on somebody. But like, hey, I actually need other things I need to get done this week that are way more important. So I just feel like I get it. And I get that feeling for a lot of people. I just have never, all the other thing is I've just never had that problem. Like, so it's like, I don't know if it's a psychopath. It's like, I have no problem. I have a problem. I want to be cordial and I don't say no as much as I probably should, but also I'm okay with like, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. And if I do, then I'll like rebook the meeting really quick. And I'm like, oh God, I should have taken that one, but I just feel like
Adrian brings up a good point, and I feel like it ties into you getting this opportunity to meet so many new people and interact with so many new people, that to me, it is this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, the more you post and put yourself out there as a human, the serendipities, the coincidences, like the coinky-dinks of people all of a sudden going, oh, hey, that Jake guy sounds really interesting. Like, let me reach out. Let me try to get on the phone. It's like a giant circle.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I post every day, multiple times a day, most days. And it's because of that cumulative. People ask me, especially when I was really early on, like the first year, I'd get this question all the time. Jake, especially because it's from sales leaders and marketing leaders. Jake, what's the ROI of posting on LinkedIn? I'm like, I don't know. Dollars, like meeting. I don't know. Like I can't, like now we can track, Jake, that now we track on the website. One of the refer sources that you can pick is how, how'd you hear about us is like Jake's LinkedIn. And we just started tracking it with it's the number one referral source. And before it just said website. And so it's like, holy crap. Like, so you have to realize that with the way the algorithm works, you can't have a bunch of clicks that you can track and still get reach. It just doesn't work that way. And so you kind of have to realize that you're just going to put out this, and then you'll start to see it. If you have a post that does well, go check your Google Analytics. If you have a website, like you'll see an increase in referral traffic. So I just think there's some like anecdotal, whether it's evidence or anecdotal details that, I think will start to add up for most people, that they'll start to see the writing and they'll start to see it. But again, just trust the process. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen in a few months. It might take you 6 months. And again, it's just being very, very open with yourself about the content and how it's landing without passing judgment. That's a skill I've had, and I think that's also what's made me good at sales. Is I can look at myself and the thing and listen to a call, and everyone cringes when they hear their own voice, but I can also pick it and be like, I blew it there, like I did that. And so same thing, like I can look at my content. All right, what was that? Oh, that was interesting. That was okay. Well, that I could have done better. Like blah blah blah. So I feel like that for me is a big mindset too. A lot of this, as you can see, is like mindset too. Just like I'm putting in the work. Jake's telling me to do this. I wouldn't tell you guys. I wouldn't tell you to do this if it didn't work. If I thought that trust me, if I thought there was a way to do it better or faster, I would just tell you. Like I'm here, copy of Kim. I just tell you, right? But it's just work.
And I mean, to Jeff's point, do you also feel like, yes, obviously posting helps scale, let's be honest. It helps you as a CEO, but do you also take into account that you're just kind of adding value to like other humans in the ecosphere?
That's the whole reason I do it. That's kind of that's such it's a perfect question for this. That is exactly why I do it. And I think it's just trusting that. And when you do it with no intention, look, if someone clicks a link or comes back to the website, amazing. I am, and again, I'll throw out, every few a link and like, hey, here's what we do, right? Like, and so people know, but I don't do it as much as my marketing team wishes that I would, like asking for someone to click a link or like look at this new product page. Like I don't do that very well, but no, I do most of it to just add value with no intention. There's no call to actions. There's no, and it's scaled, we do this, right? Like that, and that's what I used to do, right? I'm like, how can you not at the end of it saying like, and we have the best chocolate, talking about like getting healthy. Like let's say you're a chocolate. I don't know why I'm hooked on this chocolatier thing, but it's like, if you're a chocolatier, are you talking about, and it's a vegan and gluten-free, and are you talking about health and wellness? And then like, you're always slipping in chocolate, or are you okay to be that reputation around healthy? It just so happens the way that you provide health and wellness is with chocolate. And I feel like so many people, and that's, from sales standpoint, just don't really get that. They don't really get that concept of like, all ships will rise. If this does well, if people get that you're a health person, they're going to buy a shit ton of chocolate from you.
Well, and I mean, 11 million views on the platform sort of speaks for itself organically. And I feel like Jen brings up a good point, and I have like a love-hate relationship with Instagram, so we won't even go down that rabbit hole. But what are your thoughts on, like, obviously 11 million views on Instagram is pretty much impossible at this point, unless you're paying millions of dollars.
Yep. That's exactly it. Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm like quasi-active on Instagram. I kind of like, I don't know, I like get into it. We post pretty regularly on Instagram. We post maybe 4 or 5 times a week, I would guess, and probably stories a few a day. I'm not super active on it, but I do feel like, what we do is we repurpose the concept to be more Instagram friendly. So like, we're not going to necessarily talk about LinkedIn Sales Navigator on like that. None of that is going to make its way to Instagram, but and like how to, better structure a sales team. None of that's going to make it to Instagram. But if maybe career advice or maybe a sales tip here or there, those will make it to Instagram. So if you go to my Instagram here, it's just at Jake_Dunlap_. So by the way, because Jake Dunlap just will not sell me his handle. This dude, I was like, what's the price? I was like, what's the price, man? He goes, I'm just not interested in selling it right now. The guy never posts, and he refuses to sell me he refuses to even engage. And I hit him up like every 8 months. He's like, nah, I'm not ready yet. I'm like
You're not going to win. It's just
he's doing it on purpose, right? Right. If whoever can get to the one who's at Jake Dunlap on Instagram, there's a 10% finder's fee if you can get this kid to sell it.
I mean,
the Twitter guy tried to charge me like $4,000. Twitter guy's like $4,000. I'm like, beat it. No chance.
Right. You're like, that works. That's fine. Here, we'll put it up.
Exactly.
People can check it out. But when you talk about like having confidence in sales and knowing your industry and kind of constantly learning, constantly being curious, what are you tapping in? Like, how are you constantly learning? Like, are there newsletters that you subscribe to that you love? Is it a podcast that you're kind of getting all of this information from? Or like, how are you learning so much so often?
Not a ton. I mean, I'm more sporadic with podcasts. Like I read like lots of different books. I mean, I do read a lot. Like right now I've got over here, I'm reading this book. This one's interesting. It's called The 7-Day Weekend. And it's got some pretty radical concepts about like how to build and scale a company. It's usually like there's an issue that I'm having. And like, he's built this huge company out of Brazil. It's completely decentralized, like totally decentralized, like trust your people and they'll do smart things. Like, so I would say like maybe there's a problem I'm having. And I try to, I usually my first instinct, will be Google and YouTube. So I'll Google and YouTube random articles, and then I'll probably try to read a book about it. Like we've been trying to tackle as a company, how do we get our leadership team to continue to be high functioning? And I found this book, and our coach recommended it, or he had brought in some tenets from it called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So I went and read that. I read through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly. And then it's like, cool. Now we're implementing that stuff, because that's the other thing that I do too, is I implement things from things that I read. My friends, what is the point in reading if you're not going to implement what you read? I've never understood that. Like, it's like the badge of honor shouldn't be how many books you read a year. It should be how many things you implement from books that you read a year, right? In the nonfiction world. So that would be kind of my, like my shout out to like stop reading more books and start executing on more stuff.
And you threw in a little word in there that I also want to touch on. You mentioned a coach. Is that your coach? Is that an executive coach for your company? Who is that?
So we've over the last 9-10 months, we've brought in 2 different types of people. One was a business strategy person. So we brought in this gentleman named Bruce. And it was about, we've had this vision. It's like create the future of sales, right? And it was Bruce's role was like, here's a framework for how to think about how you're going to do that by looking at your competition, by what are the 4 key things or 3 key things or 10 key things that you're going to need to do. It's called like a 12Q exercise. Like to get to this point in 3 years, what is the 12Q? Quarter by quarter by quarter, what are you going to need? So we brought in a business strategy, and that just helped us to because sometimes you get a vision, right? And it's really, he helped us to solidify like, well, shit, I think we can do this, like, okay, cool. Like this has provided a framework that we can now go and reference. And so I think that that's the type of, like, when you're trying to grow, making that type of investment can seem like a lot of money, but it was very helpful. We got everyone aligned. We're doing some exercises around it. Like literally we just finished last week, and we're finishing up like each individual's role within it next week. And then, I brought a leadership coach in, and basically what he does is facilitates sessions once a month, and then has one-to-ones with the rest of the team. He doesn't report. There's no like reporting back to me, any of that stuff. And in a growing company, I can't be everything for everybody. And sometimes it's like, you don't want to come to me with that. I'm your boss. It's like, sometimes I'm like your peer in a department, and then I'm your boss, and then I'm the CEO. So I think a coach cannot be, it's not a therapist. There's things that you might want to work on that you want to bring to me later, or you don't want to talk about as much as openly to me. And so for me, the coach was an ability to have that sounding board to bounce ideas off that somebody who's not at the company. And I've been leveraging a coach for different individuals for 3 years, probably.
Wow. And obviously it's working.
I mean, we've had our best 2 quarters ever consecutively. So we've had our best 6 month in 8 years ever. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, of course, the coach would probably, well, obviously, it's me right here, right? But yeah, I mean, it all kind of came together. Like we kind of like went all in on both at like the same time. Where this person is like the EQ, this is like our company IQ, and I think it was doing the two together that has helped us to continue to mature.
And you know what I think is important to touch on as well, just as an entrepreneur, when you say you've had your best 2 quarters, and then you're also referencing the fact that you don't look at email like when you first wake up, you also just referenced that you're reading a book called The 7-Day Weekend. And I know we said we're not going to talk about work-life balance, but I think that sometimes the picture that we paint of you having your best 2 quarters are you running around like a chicken with your head cut off, being like crazy. Yeah. And I think it's important to kind of lift up this example that you can have your best 2 quarters and remain like somewhat sane.
Well, I was. I mean, like, don't get it twisted. Like, the other thing is, look, I've created process. You and I were talking about, actually, Kim, I'm not going to get you started on Superhuman because I know the rabbit hole that this is going to take us down. but I'm very efficient, meaning what I also realized something else. Email begets more email. So sometimes the right answer is just don't respond. If someone gives you an update, don't respond or say thanks and just don't ask. It's like, stop. If it can wait, well, guess what? How many things can wait till just the meeting on Thursday? And just document it there. So I'm an inbox 0 person. I stayed up, I stayed up till 11:30 last night getting to inbox 0, but now I'm good. Right? I got my LinkedIn to 0. I got my inbox to 0. So do not get it twisted. I am running my head like around putting out fires. Oh, so-and-so quit because they got their like some other. Oh, great. Well, guess who's the head of that department now? Jake Dunlap, right? Like that happened in February with our largest partner, our partner manager. She's an amazing woman. She left after a couple of years. She got a really great opportunity, like amazing. But guess what? Guess what? Her new hire was supposed to start the next week. Guess who's that person's boss now? Jake Dunlap. Who's got to now go find another consultant? Jake Dunlap. Who's now got to go do this? Like all of this stuff. I'm doing all of this. Okay. The key is this though. What I do try to do is think about what's most important. And I don't think I'm that great at it. Like I think I'm like okay at it. Now, again, I really try to focus on that. Is this what's most important? Is this, I'll look at like my to-do list. Like, is this, what's going to happen if this waits 48 hours? Nothing's going to happen. I think that that's probably what it is. I think I'm more comfortable with longer timelines than sometimes as an entrepreneur, you feel like it all is now. And I think that's maybe it versus having this like work-life balance where, yeah, like last week I did take a random Tuesday off and, my in-laws were in town, but I guess what, I worked long on Monday and then I made up for it. And, but I wasn't checking my email then too, because again, it's been 8 years too. So hopefully at some point, like my out of office, when I took my ski vacation 3 weeks ago said, if as a CEO at this point, these questions can't be answered by other people, I've obviously done a horrible job. But then I've got to jump in the weeds if someone leaves, so I just feel like it's about in the 7-day weekend. Someone asked it, the 7-day weekend actually is more about, it's not about like Tim Ferriss type 4-hour weeks. It's more like, it's all kind of arbitrary, like work when you need to work, get the jobs and tasks done when you need to get them done, and don't when you don't want to work. And that we're as humans, we're adults, and we'll figure out how to like get there. So it's not about like how to only squeeze it in and get virtual assistants, which I mean, I love that book, 4-Hour Workweek, but it's a different concept. And so I think that's it. It's that integration, right? It's like, I can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then always really being focused on what's most important. What's most important now? Am I doing a little bit on what's going to be most important 3, 6, 9, 12 months? I've got this principle called like 80, 15, 5. 80% should be focused on now, 15% midterm, 5% long-term. That's how you think about, your time versus I'm spending all of it on now, and that's the detriment of the future. Then you should, that's how you stay in what's called the whirlwind. Is if you're at 95% in now, you will never get out of the whirlwind. You have to be creating the mental space for what do I need to be doing today to make sure that June's successful. And then during this week, what am I doing to make sure December and January through April of next year is successful? So just little bits of time and more focus on the now, but not always focus on the now.
I love that.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. Okay. As I'm observing that, this is like the last 10 minutes is when I really love to just like copy your homework. Like, I don't want to do the homework. You already did the homework. Like, we're friends. I'm going to copy you. So I hope that's okay.
Please do.
Okay. Speed round questions. Take a sip, get some caffeine in you. Okay. Ready to go.
Let's roll.
Okay. What have you started using lately or doing lately? It doesn't even have to be using, it could be doing, that you love, obsessed with.
It's exactly what we're talking about. I am now taking time off during the week and letting people figure out stuff without me. And it has been magical. Like, guess what? Not everyone needs a boss and to someone there to check on them. And then it's almost like you feel abandoned for a second. You're like, they don't need, I guess they don't need me. But then I'm like, well, that's your job, Jake, is like to work yourself out of these jobs. So I'm creating more space for more people in the company to make decisions and not create a hub and spoke. And it feels awesome. Awesome.
Well, that kind of leads into the next question, which I think the answer might be working yourself out of a job, but I'll ask it anyways, which is, what's the best gift that you've sort of given yourself in this weird COVID season? And maybe it's not work related, actually, maybe it's more like personal related.
I feel like I need to give myself more gifts. I mean, right? A girl can never have enough diamonds, like I can never have enough days off or whatever. I do feel like I do need to do more for me, but I do think, yeah, you're right. It's, I took a full week off 3.5 weeks ago, and I didn't check email for 6 days. I haven't done that. Now I do have a part-time VA, and she went in there and did some basic triaging, very, very basic. But that felt great. So that was the gift. I gave myself a gift of really not thinking about work for 6 to 7 days and really creating space. And it went fantastic.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Okay. What's the next thing that you're hoping to learn? It could be like, I want to learn Spanish, or I want to learn to code, or what are you excited to learn about?
The guitar.
The
guitar. Yes. I actually practiced last night for the first time, and I lost it. So what I did in COVID, there was the first thing I was like, I want to master a Rubik's Cube. So now I can do a Rubik's Cube in like 1 minute and 45 seconds. So I've got, it's a formula. Once you figure it out, it's actually like you just YouTube it. But it's fun.
There's a good Netflix documentary about Rubik's Cube.
That's right. That is what turned me on. I saw that. And I'm like, I want to know. I never solved a Rubik's Cube before. I'm like, I want to know how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And it turns out it's actually not that hard. Like, it just requires repetition. And I don't know. Maybe next time on the next copy of Kim, I will do a Rubik's Cube, and you can time me, and we can see how fast.
That's a good party trick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can still. Oh man, now I'm a little rusty. The guitar. So then I was like, okay, well, what's next? And I was like, apparently the step up from a Rubik's Cube is a guitar. By the way, that's not a step up. That's like a step function up. And I don't have like long piano fingers or like to do it. So, that is my next thing. I picked it back up for the first time last night in like a few weeks. And so I'm going to master the guitar and like proficient. I just want to be able to play Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison. Once I get to that level of proficiency where I can play basic hairband ballads and then like some like Bruno Mars type stuff, I'm good. Bieber, obviously.
You're going to have all the party tricks. Rubik's Cube.
What do you need next?
Every Rose Has Its Thorn. I want you at my next party.
That's right. And then the next request will be Peaches by Justin Bieber. It's like, these are just the ones that I want to, I just want a basic repertoire, of go-tos.
Yeah. Okay. Besides Justin Bieber on social media, and this could be on Instagram or LinkedIn, who are other humans that you follow that you're like, this content is, I feel like so much of the internet is negative, such like a sad, gross space. But like, who are the accounts that you're like, you bring light and joy into my life?
I actually I haven't been consuming his content as much, but I really feel like Gary Vaynerchuk is one of the most positive humans on the planet. And honestly, I really credit like listening to some of his content when I was starting to get started to like keep me motivated, etc. A lot of people, and plus his style, like we have like he's aggressive and talks fast and etc. So the way that he talked about information like really hit home for me. I'm like, oh, I can do that. Like okay, it makes sense. His delivery, it fits mine. And so I really love his stuff. Like I said, I don't consume, I'll go through like random like TikTok. I like the videos like where people do like what this song was sampled by. There's a few people who do some really cool stuff around like weaving in samples. It's always fun. Like Snoop Dogg was on Clubhouse last night, just talking nonsense, just absolute nonsense. So I'm pretty, I would say as a consumer, I'm consuming less for my professional, and when I'm consuming on social, it's more for my own to just be like, I'm just gonna just kick it.
I mean, Clubhouse, who knew? Snoop Dogg on Clubhouse. I clearly didn't get the memo.
No, Snoop was on there. No, the best club, one of the best late night clubhouse, like a Friday night, maybe a month ago, and it was The Game, Coolio, Daz from the Dog Pound, and Coolio started freestyling, and then Eazy-E's daughter joined, and it was like the best rappers in Compton, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, what other app can you just like hop on and like, Coolio's claiming that he's the best rapper from Compton. You're like, okay, sure, Coolio, right? But like, I really enjoy Clubhouse to do that. And then I top in, like I hopped in a room this morning and talked for a little bit. So like Clubhouse to me is like, it's this like beautiful, I call it the intersection between podcast, Instagram, and LinkedIn. It's like, it's got the hustle, like ClickFunnels people from Instagram. It's got the B2B people from LinkedIn, and then it's got the podcast vibe because it's all audio. And I feel like, it's kind of this like right in the middle. I can go like Instagram like vibes here, and then I can go LinkedIn vibes podcast. So and I extract a ton of value from Clubhouse too. I'll go in like, we're trying to hire a director, VP level operations person, and guys, COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNKS, and they're talking in a room. I raise my hand. I'm like, what should we be looking for? And he spent 15 minutes telling me what I should do. I'm like, thank you. So I'm a big fan.
That's amazing. And so I'm going to give homework to everybody right now that we should all follow Jake on Clubhouse, because what most people don't realize is you can see, if you haven't played with Clubhouse that much, you can see what rooms other people in. So if we all follow Jake and Jake happens to be in a Coolio room, we can follow Jake into that room. So I will give homework to everybody. We should follow Jake. Clearly he knows what's up on Clubhouse.
Am all over the place.
Can you give all of us homework? And it might be to subscribe to something or read something or watch something or do something this week that you think would be really beneficial.
I want all of you to post 2 times in the next 7 days. Text only post that is an industry, that is an insight. It's something that you already know. And I want you to post twice on LinkedIn over the next 7 days. So before Tuesday of next week, 2 text only posts. Don't overthink it. I gave you 2 different ways to write it. And just share your insights and just see what happens. Just see what happens and see how it feels, and then DM me and tell me how it worked out. And hey, how about this? And if you're like, Jake, I'm a little nervous, send me a DM. Send me a DM. I will look at the post for you. I'm going to say yes, just so you know. I'm going to be like, whatever it is, and be like, that's brilliant. So, but I'm happy, but just do it. You're here. You're learning about this for a reason. You're obviously interested. I'm telling you, there's no better platform right now for organic than LinkedIn. So post twice, not once.
I will add, please tag me. Maybe Jake, you don't want to be tagged.
No, tag me. Tag away.
Or in the post so I can see.
Love it. I love that. Absolutely. I'll go in, I'll interact, I'll do my best, right? Kelly says, homework done. I promise I'm going to do it this time. Look at that. Jen, I love this. Jen she's doing karaoke with friends on Thursday night in Clubhouse. I love this. Yes, of course, Jeff or Jeffrey. I don't know if you have Jeffrey on here. Do you go by Jeff or Jeffrey? I'm curious.
Jeff.
It's just Jeff? Okay. It's just Jeff? Okay. But Jeffrey, like, I feel like Jeffrey has like an extra ring. It's like the difference between Frank and Franklin. It's like they're just 2 different people. Like Jeff and Jeffrey to me is two different humans.
Well, it's your alter ego. It's like Batman.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Mine's Jerry Dunlap. Right. Jerry Dunlap does all the like cheesy sales stuff. Like Jerry Dunlap is like cheesy, like sales guy. Like, hey, what's going on? Jerry Dunlap here. How are you doing today?
We all need a Jerry in our lives. We all need one of those.
Hashtag Just Jeff. I love it.
I love it. Oh, Jake, thank you so much for coming on here and dropping so many insights. If people want to keep learning from you, following you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a place where I'm most consistent, right? So I would say if you're interested, definitely. Jen, no, you don't. If you want to post a video, it's fine. I'm fine with the challenge if you post a video, okay? But one of the posts has to be text only, so you can start to see the differences between when you do that, okay? Yeah, LinkedIn. I dropped my Clubhouse. It's just Jake Dunlap on Clubhouse. That kid didn't get to it on Clubhouse, thank God. And then I think those are the two places I've been most active. Instagram, if you're into barbecue and smoking meats, then definitely follow me on Instagram. I try to share my barbecue adventures here in Austin, and definitely tag me in your posts. I will get in. I'll interact. We'll try to add some value.
I love it. Well, sending you a big cheers. Thank you for coming. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the week, you guys.
All right, everybody.